Now, Rishi Sunak has pledged that those wrongly convicted as part of the post office scandal could have their names cleared by the end of the year. I suppose that they should have their names cleared by the end of the year, not could. Coulds just won't cut it anymore, will they? Emergency laws were announced in the Commons yesterday to swiftly exonerate and compensate victims. Even saying swiftly, it makes me sticks in the throat, doesn't it? Nothing about this has been swift.
It's taken a long time for a lot of them. The new legislation is set to be introduced within weeks and includes each postmaster having to sign a declaration that they didn't take part in any wrongdoing. A new upfront payment of £75,000 for the group of 555 sub-postmasters led by Alan Bates, who won a group action against the Post Office in 2019. Those who believe they're entitled to more then can go through an assessment process to seek more compensation. Anyone who has had their conviction overturned will be given an upfront offer of £600,000 or an assessment for a higher amount.
Parmod Kalia and Janet Skinner were both wrongly convicted following false accusations of stealing thousands of pounds from their respective post offices. They've both had their convictions quashed in 2021, but are still waiting to be compensated. I'm not sure how you managed to be here this morning, given the exhaustion that the public feels exhausted for you, and we've only really come into it in recent weeks because of the show. I can't imagine, Janet, for you, for one, just so you had your conviction quashed. Why are you still waiting?
It's a lot to do with the legal representation, the scrutinising and everything. The Post Office still orchestrate quite a lot of it, as in, like, the compensation, convictions being overturned, convictions being contested. And I think what they need to do is they need to remove a massive amount of power that the Post Office hold. And it needs to be taken back, and they need to be stripped down so that they are in control. You can't decide how much you're going to give somebody when you've sent that person to prison. It's just not right.
They have too much power, as you're saying. They still have too much power.
Yeah, they do.
Parmod, you'd been running your local post office for 11 years before things started going wrong. Tell us what happened, what that process was like and what you went through.
That was manual bookkeeping. I came from a banking background anyway. I knew my figure work, I knew computers as well, I dealt with them. It was manual bookkeeping, and there were small differences, maybe £5, £10, £20, which, according to the contract, we had to make good straight away, otherwise you couldn't trade for the next working day. So it was not too bad. Then Horizon came in 2000 into my office. Originally, it was manageable, it was OK. Again, small differences, shortages. But when they started getting bigger, and there was no way I could carry on putting in from my own pocket, from my retail side of the shop, there was a system where you could put it into a suspense account, hoping that there would be error notice to come through a couple of weeks' time to rectify those errors. But when those errors didn't come and the differences started accumulating, I had to declare I had the cash that wasn't there. So
it starts off with a small amount of money, 5, 10, 15, 20 pounds. It escalates, though. What sort of differences were you suddenly finding? 1,000,
1,500, 2,000, which was unmanageable.
And these weren't simply sort of clerical errors from your perspective. This was the software going wrong. And you were going to your own savings to try and fill those holes, weren't you?
I had no idea. I did not blame the computer system because it was a new system. We were told it was going to be accurate, it was going to be fast, it was going to save us time. I didn't think for a second it was the computer system.
Tell us what impact it has had on your life when you were then prosecuted. You've taken a deep breath there, because this is obviously highly, highly traumatic for all of you. The impact has been so wide-reaching.
When the auditors came and they said there was a shortage of 22,000, they said they wanted to interview me. They gave me an option that either I could have a family member, a solicitor or a federation rep to be present. I hadn't done anything wrong. I didn't call a solicitor. I called the federation rep, and their response to me over the telephone was, how quickly can you put that right to keep it out of the courts? I didn't want to go to courts. I didn't want to go to jail. I didn't want to go to prison. I hadn't done anything wrong. I borrowed the money from my mum, her life savings, and gave it to the post office within 2 days. And despite that, when I still got letters to prosecute me, I phoned the Federation rep again, and I was told by the Federation rep, make up a story and plead guilty, and you will then maybe not get a custodial sentence, but maybe get a small sentence like a community order.
Just appalling. But you did end up getting a custodial sentence.
I did. I pleaded guilty, like he said, on his advice. I got a 6-month custodial sentence, of which I served 3 months inside and 3 on tag.
The thought of you spending 3 months in prison is just so... It's absolutely shocking. It had an awful impact on your family relationships, didn't it, as well?
Very much so. When I came out of prison in 2002, after the 3 months, I was restricted as to what I could do with my shop. I couldn't go there. I couldn't leave the house before 9 in the morning. I had to be back by 6 in the evening. Following the repercussions from the customers, I left the shop, basically, and let my wife and my children run that shop. I started doing other things like mini-cabbing. The impact it's had, we had to eventually close the shop, couldn't sell it. We just closed the shop down, lost all the goodwill of the shop, which we'd built up over the years. And then I was completely in myself. It wasn't discussed, this aspect. It wasn't talked about. I had no other postmasters to talk to until 2015. For 15 years, I cooked it up within myself.
You kept it to yourself.
Your family...
And am I right in saying that one of your daughters, was only when she saw the drama, she finally said, Dad, I realised that you hadn't done anything wrong?
They actually suspect... My daughters were very young at the time. My youngest was 6 and my next one was 9 years old. They were very young children at the time. They were asking me questions. Dad, have you taken the money? And I had no answer for them. I couldn't say it was the computer system. I said, no, I haven't.
You still didn't think it was the computer system?
I didn't think it was a computer system until 2015.
And Janet, I mean, honestly, just appalling. Your story, you ended up serving... Prison time.
Yeah.
How long did you end up in prison for, and what was the theft amount that you were convicted for? And
Theft amount was 59,000. I was actually sent to prison in 2007, and I was advised to plead... Well, they offered a plea bargain. If I pleaded guilty to false accounting, they would drop the theft.
It reminds us of the Joe Hamilton story that we've all seen in the show. It's a very similar story.
Although we're not characterised in it, everything that happens in the drama, I am part of. I've been part of it since 2011, when I was made aware of the Jace affair. But I was given a 9-month custodial sentence in 2007.
How long had you been running the post office before this happened?
I'd worked for them since 1994.
So it had been going on, like you had run it for 11 years before Horizon came in. What the strange thing from the outside is trying to understand, and we had an email about this, why there wasn't somebody going, hold on, why have we got all these postmasters that are fiddling the books? Why are we employing... You know, no one was joining the dots behind the scenes to say, maybe this isn't you guys. Maybe there is a fundamental problem somewhere in the process. Could it be the software?
The increase of prosecutions actually grew massively when the Horizon system was installed. And I think what it was is, because the post office is this trusted brand, it was owned by the Crown, it was part of Royal Mail at the time anyway, because, I mean, majority of the prosecutions have happened when they was part of the Royal Mail, and everybody trusted that brand. So we trusted what they was putting in would be...
Yes, exactly.
But you knew you hadn't stolen that money.
Yeah.
Though.
Yeah, and, well, I mean, it's stomach-churning to read this morning that those people, including the person, presumably, that you're going to see, Janet, today in the inquiry, Stephen Bradshaw, was the actual person from the post office who came in and interviewed you and then pursued prosecution against you for something that you had not done. He's going to be at the public inquiry. We're reading this morning that each of those people were getting bonuses from the post office for every single conviction. And there were over 800, I think, convictions in the end. Did you know this?
What, that was
That they were getting bonuses?
No, that's only come to light recently, is that...
I mean, you think you can't be shocked anymore by this story, and then this?
Disclosure of documentation, they've been... I mean, there is a disclosure hearing tomorrow in regards to the Post Office and how they've been dealing with documents. I mean, I've actually said I actually thought they employed intelligent people, because all of a sudden they'll find a mass of documents. Where they're finding them.
Right, let's ask you about what happened yesterday, of course. So the £600,000 is for anybody who's now, this year, I mean, you've already had your convictions overturned, haven't you? But there are many, many more, I think 700 of them, who haven't even gone to appeal yet. Each one of you will be eligible for £600,000, and you can apply for, but you've got to either take it or leave it, haven't you, the £600,000?
Yeah, it's literally, that is it. But if you've had any form of interim payment prior to that, that is then deducted from that £600,000.
See, it's never what it seems, is it, in the headline?
No. And what happened yesterday will not affect either of us.
No, because you've already had your convictions overturned. You will be eligible for the £75,000 that is part of the Alan Bates Group. No,
because when the settlement agreement was made in 2019, anybody who had a criminal conviction was excluded from the settlement agreement. The Post Office didn't want anybody with a conviction to have anything. So we was actually excluded.
So what happens for the two of you now then, Janet? How are you going to pursue compensation that you deserve?
So, well, we're going down... We're actually represented by the same legal team anyway. Right. So we're going down the other route. My claim's been ongoing for quite some time.
So you're going to push for what you think you deserve, not the £600,000.
No. Have you got any... Sorry, have you got any sense of when that might come to fruition? Because we've all seen now what you've been through. The convictions have been overturned. We know neither of you had any blame in any of this whatsoever. Have they given you a sense now? Do you think, because of the expedience that the Prime Minister has said from in Parliament yesterday, that actually they might expedite your cases as well? You don't think so?
No, because the Post Office still control everything.
Parmod,
we haven't seen the small print. The devil's in the detail, as they say, so we haven't seen the small print. But in my particular case, like Janet says, I was a member of the 555. As soon as that court case was concluded, we were taken out of that because we had criminal convictions. Subsequently, criminal convictions, both of ours have been quashed, but I don't qualify for any interim payment, or the Post Office have classified me as a public interest case, whereby I don't qualify for any interim payment.
What does that mean? So the £600,000 that was announced by the Prime Minister yesterday, you should automatically get because your conviction was overturned?
Correct. That's what I would have thought. But myself and there were two others, we were classified as public interest cases where the Post Office have not given us a penny in interim payment yet.
So where does that leave you financially?
Financially, it's very difficult. Financially, it's very difficult at the moment. I don't have a job. I'm not retirable age. I don't get a pension.
And you're unwell. I mean, you don't mind us saying that.
This has developed afterwards with all the stress and the anxiety and the depression that's led up for those 15 years.
Just explain, what, if you don't mind. I know you've told our researchers about it, so I'm not pushing you for something that's uncomfortable, hopefully.
First of all, there was my diabetes, which is extremely out of control. It was on medication, and now I'm on insulin. That's affecting my feet with neuropathy, my hands, my eyes. That's one aspect of it. And since late 22, I've been diagnosed with cancer. It's been cancer of the lymph node. It's been treated with chemotherapy, which didn't work. They said the mass has grown bigger. Then they've started with radiotherapy, which really knocked me out for 6.
And really, that should be the fight of your life. You know, people talk about fighting cancer as that, you know, but you're trying to deal with cancer, and you're now having to fight again, despite what was said yesterday by the Prime Minister. You're going to have to now fight for... It's not even compensation. It's... we don't like that word, actually, on this show. I think we've decided this morning we don't like the word because it doesn't fully cover the devastation and the trauma. I just don't know what to say to you. I find it exhausting and absolutely, utterly appalling.
Despite the compensation, the money that I've given back from my mum, I haven't got a penny of that back yet either. Janet?
I've actually had mine back. I got it back.
Okay. I haven't.
But this is the thing. It's the sporadic nature of it, isn't it? That some people have, some people haven't. I think there's only 5% of the Alan Bates group that have had any money.
Janet,
and
what do you think will be an outcome that allows you to get past it, or will there never be? It wouldn't matter how much money it is.
Well, no, because, I mean, money doesn't come with an erase button. So
and also time is running out for people sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah.
You've heard about the deaths that have happened during the last 20 years. That was inevitable.
I mean, I can't work. I mean, I had a neurological condition in 2008. I was almost sent back to prison for 5 years for non-payment of compensation order to the post office, and that was a year after my case concluded. I went to prison in 2007, and then 2008 they wanted to send me back to prison for 5 years for non-payment of compensation.
It's just extraordinary. I'm sorry we don't have more time.
It's fine.
But we do appreciate you coming in and sharing your stories. All we can say is we hope that whatever's happening now starts happening with some pace, because you deserve to get some sort of more justice.
Yes.
Because it's just so unfair what you've been through.
Thank you.
Thank you, Parmod. Thank you.
Good luck with everything. And we hope that your health, you know, stays strong enough to see some sort of conclusion for you and your families, and all the trauma that you've experienced. It's absolutely shocking.
If you've been affected by any of the issues we've been discussing, you can find advice and support at the website itv.com/helplines.